Thanks for joining us live with Miami's Community News. And our guest today is City of Miami Commissioner Ken Russell. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So you've been a City of Miami Commissioner since
2015.
2015. Here we are, 2022, and you want to be a congressman for either your district. People want to know why.
Well, anyone who says they want to be a politician, you should be very wary. This is something people should feel a duty, that they want to serve their community. I don't want to be there forever. I don't want this to be my career, but there is a need. And everything I've worked on for the last 7 years and have accomplished at the City of Miami has been missing a federal partner and could have gone much bigger and stronger and faster if we had a champion in Congress to help. But I've never even met in my office my congressional representatives, my senators, and we're in one of the biggest cities that has the greatest needs. So
and
that's
a
what
name
I'd like
that's
to be.
known across the world.
Sure.
Right? Miami.
Yes.
That is a big deal.
So I would like to be the representative I wish I had for the last 7 years. And I want to be that to not only my city of Miami, but all of the cities in Miami-Dade County and beyond.
And I think that's part of it, is to be able to say, yes, my constituents are all over the county. My area is a certain area. Now, explain people more or less the most northern border of the congressional district and southern border.
Sure, it goes from Miami down to Cutler Bay, but the easiest borders to look at are the 836 on the north and the Turnpike on the west. Everything from there to the water. So it's a big triangle.
And approximately how many people live in that area?
About 800,000.
Okay. So City of Miami, the district, you have the water district, is referred to that?
Yes.
There's about 100,000 people that
Just
are there.
under, yeah.
All right. So when did you realize that you had a need, a desire, and a responsibility to serve the public?
I wouldn't have wished it on my worst enemy. Not just a few years ago. I was just running my own business, raising my family, 3 kids, 2 dogs, 2 cats. My wife's a vet. There's a contaminated park in front of my house. And that's the type of thing that pulls people into politics who would have not otherwise gone. It was affecting my community. It was affecting my kids. It was affecting my home value. So I learned the science and I took on the city and I organized the neighborhood.
Now, one of the things you did many years ago before it became popular, you would walk through these areas with your iPhone. I assume it was the iPhone going, and you'd be talking that whole way. And so you have this connection and the ability to connect lots of people. And when we look at right now on Instagram, you have how many followers do you have on Instagram?
Instagram, I'm not sure. On TikTok, I have 410,000.
Now, 410,000 people have said, I want to see what this guy's doing.
Yes, they're subscribed. They follow my channel. Yeah,
That's a big deal.
for a politician, it is.
And yes, it is a very big deal. So what caused you to say, I know how to connect to people and give them an opportunity to speak to me?
It was really a coincidence. When I started the campaign, I did not have a TikTok account, and my team is great.
Wait, which campaign? This one?
Well, it was about a little over a year ago, and I was originally running statewide against Marco Rubio. And so that's when I started my TikTok account to try to reach more people.
So, and these are people all ages, from the whole shebang, from young people to middle-aged people to older people like Wilson over here, all right, that have said, I want to see what Ken Russell is doing.
People think it's only Gen Z on TikTok, but it's not true at all. Gen Z are there, millennials, and even Gen X and boomers are lurking and watching, but the youngers are mostly doing the creating.
Yes. And we appreciate that because we get a lot of ideas from that. The biggest growth pattern now is for people over the age of 60. So I'm thankful for that.
Didn't know
Yes,
that.
because it got everybody else at the expense of some of the other social media. So you've done a lot of things in your life, all right? So why don't you tell us where you went to high school and the different colleges you went to?
I'm a bit of the Forrest Gump of politics. I've really just stumbled into really great opportunities my entire life. I started here at Doctors Hospital, born in the Gables. Went to school here through 1979 between Coconut Grove and Key Biscayne. Left for Stuart, Florida, about 2 hours north. And that's where I really learned about water quality. They have a big educational program, even in elementary school, around the environment. Went to school then in North Carolina. Did a study abroad in Japan. Then I worked in 55 countries before deciding I want to move back to Miami, and that was 20 years ago.
And so you visited these 55 countries, and what were you doing in those areas?
At that time, this was my big career right out of college. I was a professional yo-yo player. And over about a 10-year period, I sold 20 million yo-yos in over 50 countries.
It's extraordinary. When we first started becoming aware of you, said, who's this yo-yo guy? This was not just a hobby. It was a big business, a real deal.
Yes,
yes. And your dad was involved in that as well.
So my dad, in his 1938 yearbook prophecy, they said, Jack Russell, his name, would sell yo-yos back to the Philippines where they were invented. And it
No
was true.
kidding.
And it was true. Yeah. So this is a family thing. He met my mother while he was on yo-yo tour. She was the yo-yo champion of Japan.
Some people don't think that it takes physical strength and stamina to yo-yo, but it does.
Oh my goodness. Well, especially when you're doing it 8-10 hours a day, you get, the cracked hands and the calluses and everything. You chip teeth.
And you would you oh yeah, bingo. What'd you do to nothing? All right. And when you would yo-yo, you just didn't do it in competition. You did it as a part of a show, or how did that?
Yes, actually, I wasn't a competitive yo-yo player. Our company was a promotional marketing company, and we'd work with Coca-Cola bottlers around the world to promote Coca-Cola, and they would sponsor our efforts. And in the process, we'd go into a country and sell millions of yo-yos. So as the kids would learn this sport, and we call it a sport, we would find the yo-yo champion of that country over about a 2-month period, and kids would get a really great experience learning a toy, and it's a very fulfilling toy. You feel very accomplished when you learn things.
And speaking of accomplished, so you're also a extraordinary athlete. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your track and field? All right.
Used to be.
That's what happens. This whole thing keeps sticking. All right. Tell us about your track and field experience.
I started as a hurdler in high school because my dad was a hurdler, but I was horrible at it. They called me the wood chopper. And you just plow through all the hurdles. And then I tried out pole vaulting, and I took to it like crazy. I set the freshman record in my high school at 12.6, and then I went on to set the school record, which still stands over 40 years.
And how tall are you?
I'm only 6'1".
All right.
Yeah.
So when I look at pole vaulters, are they as tall as I think they are, or is it just the
Not
camera
necessarily.
angle?
You do not have to be that tall to be a great pole vaulter. It's mostly gymnastics work.
So when we see them, the pole bending back like this
Yeah.
with the 180 pounder, the
Yes.
180 pounds, right?
Yes.
And that 6 stands, and then it looks like you almost get catapulted over
Yes,
the
and
top.
hopefully up and not back. Yes.
And then when you watch it in slow motion, you watch how the legs go up and then the legs go down, and you sort of flip up.
It's a beautiful sport. I was great at clearing the heights, but I would often miss the mat on the way down.
How'd you manage to do that?
Physics, I don't know, but everybody, yay, and then but I did. I set some records. I went on to tie for first in the state at the Sunshine Games, and then went to the National Junior Olympics in Nebraska one year.
Let's put this in perspective. What years were those?
This is 1991 when I graduated high school.
And then you did skateboarding.
Yes, that was my hobby. That was never, anything official through school, but it's something I had a love of as a, misspent youth. And I've brought that into my political career, trying to help show my other commissioners that not all parks are just grass. We built an Olympic level skate park in the city of Miami, a $1.2 million skate park that is ready now to serve the Olympic Games. And I'm very proud of that. And I've gotten quite hurt in that park.
Okay. And you were in the surfboard business, plus you were a surfboarder?
Yes, I was a kite surfer
Kite
originally.
surfer.
So when you're in high school, you have to choose skating or surfing. I chose skating. But then later on, I got into kite surfing. I became an instructor for kite surfing. And then I really got into long distance kite surfing.
So that just means you're on a surfboard.
Yes.
And you have this big kite up in the sky, and the wind pulls you.
Yes, you can steer the kite to harness the wind, and it'll pull you just like a boat would pull a water skier.
And is that a harness, or you hold on with your hands?
You do have a belt harness with a hook on it, just like a windsurfer. So you're not under arm power the whole time.
So you would travel quite a long distance frequently.
Yes, I did 3 60-mile races. Two of them were from Jupiter to Fort Lauderdale, and I did quite well in those. I get in the top 10. And then the one that was a disaster, I went across the Bermuda Triangle to Bimini, and I was in third place in that one, and I could see Bimini, and then I got hit by a big Portuguese man of war, and that was the end of my day.
So when you're going along, right? And you have to understand the winds a lot.
Yes.
And what the winds mean. It's not just here comes the wind, but what is it going to do to you?
Correct.
And then you have to anticipate how to use the wind to your advantage so you can get to where you want to go.
It's very much like sailing, the principles of sailing, except you don't have a boat. And the sail isn't right in front of you like windsurfing. It's way up and out of the way, so it's very free. You feel great.
So you were a risk taker when you were there. You're willing to try stuff and do well or not to do well.
Are you going into a politics segue here? Because
Yes.
I feel like a metaphor is forming.
Yes.
Okay, just checking.
So how often is it that you're there at City Miami and you're trying to get something done because you think it's good for your constituents, and the other people over there and say, no, I want to go that way and you want to go this way, and you have the headwinds and you have people pulling you this way in all the different ways. So how do you balance that?
You forgot the sharks.
Yes, there are, and man
Complete
wars.
the metaphor. Yes, they're
Okay.
all there.
They're all there. Yes.
Well, let's just say politics is an extreme sport. And it is. It's tricky. You want to get your things done. You want to accomplish your legislation. You need 3 votes for anything in the city of Miami. But I've been very fortunate. I've been very successful in getting the work done for the community on a very difficult dais, and even while I'm in the minority.
Yes. And we know that the city of Miami gets a lot of credit for a lot of companies in California for moving here, right? And that's just not one person, it's the whole thing. Sometimes people say it happened in 2 years. No, it happened in 100 plus 2 years to make that happen. So people want to know, if you get elected to Congress, what are you going to do for them?
Oh, absolutely. My goal is to act as a local elected official, but serving in Washington, meaning the federal issues that are failing us here. That's what I want to do, but I want to bring that home. And it's all there. I've seen it as a city elected in what's lacking: the money for affordable housing, the resources, the regulations that make it difficult to spend, the infrastructure projects that we should be a part of. As infrastructure bills get passed, we should be at the front of the list, right at the table for storm surge, sea level rise, transportation, but we're not.
That some of those issues that you mentioned are really important to us. Yeah. It's not as though it's down the road. It's right now.
Yes.
Right. And one of the Miami-Dade County is certainly facing an issue with our sewer system that for years has been, you need to fix it, you need to fix it, you need to fix it. People say, well, what's the big deal? We'll just connect to the sewers. Well, we need new sewers.
Yes.
Can you get us a few $1 billion?
Yes.
All right. And what about Biscayne Bay? What are we going to do with the Bay and about our Everglades that is now, I know there's a state that's trying to take care of it. The pythons have taken over. The natural order of things is upside down. And I used to be into animals, and I don't think there's a way that we as human beings can dispatch enough pythons to make a difference.
Our greatest exotic predator is nutrients in our water. And I know you think of snakes and you think of, different things.
Good point.
The thing that is affecting our climate, our ecology and our drinking water and our swimming water and our businesses and our tourism is nutrients in the water. And if we can find a way to reduce that nutrient load that hits our bay, our Everglades, our Lake Okeechobee in the ocean, it's going to save us for the long term. Otherwise, we're getting fish kills, we're getting manatee die-offs, seagrass die-offs, coral, everything.
So we raise exotic birds. About 10 years ago, I was having a problem with the birds, maybe 20. And he said, are you on well water? I go, yes. He says, don't bring me the dead birds, bring me the water. And he said something interesting. He said, it wasn't enough bacteria in there to kill the bird, but it was enough to lower their resistance so the other diseases could come in and kill them. I immediately, it took us 3 years, brought in county water, and then they stopped dying.
Yep.
One of our neighbors said, gee, Michael, it smells over here. It smells like the shower. I live in a farm area. The shower smells like sewage. I said, because it is. Because where that water is draining, that's where your well is. And I suggested there are many places like that. All these nutrients, I know the county says, please don't fertilize in a certain part of the year. And I think those are good initial steps. So we do have a big problem. And we know that during pandemic, the bay turned blue. It was beautiful, as blue as this is right back here. And then as soon as we started using that highway again of water, it started getting polluted. What are some of the answers that you can help us with if you go to Washington?
Sure. So it starts with what I've done locally. I've passed the state's strongest ordinances for a municipality on fertilizer, on glyphosate, which is Roundup, the weed killer, on styrofoam. I've even passed an ordinance that shuts down development sites if they silt into the bay, if they don't control their runoff. And that's why a year ago you saw these big silt plumes on social media, and you don't see them anymore this year. The legislation works. But what is needed at the federal level is enforcement of the Clean Water Act. It's federal law. It's been given to the state of Florida, and the state of Florida is compromised by agriculture, and they don't enforce it.
So we have property down in unincorporated Homestead. Some people call it Redland, way out there. And we see what goes on, all right? But we look at it and we say, well, we need our fruits. We need our vegetables. We need this. So there isn't enough mechanism to provide alternatives that people are willing to do. And a lot of that comes down to education. Now, the county hired Arella Begay, I think that's your last name, the Bay officer. Mm-hmm. That was a pleasure to see that. They're picking up boats and they're out of the water. They're doing things that make a difference. And sometimes we know it's not for show, but they're showing what we're doing. That makes us be a little more cautious about what we're doing. Mm-hmm. what can you do from a federal level so the little kids, when they're this big, say, Daddy, don't litter, don't throw the stuff out the window, don't pull off the side of the road and dump the stuff, don't throw the balloons into Biscayne Bay, all right? Don't put your plastic on the beaches where all the critters are there going to eat it and die. What can be done from a federal level helping us locally to educate our children?
The balloons, and also there's a fellow throwing beer cans off of his boat, were the two most viral videos that I had on TikTok, over 20 million views in 1 week. People are outraged by this, by the wanton, just the selfishness and the carelessness of polluting our bay. And so making awareness of that, and then the enforcement, those people with the balloons, they went to jail for throwing balloons in the bay. And some people thought that was excessive, but it set such an example that I think it'll change behavior.
So we know 25, 30 years ago, there was this thing called catch and release, but no, real men don't release it. We chop it up and we eat it. And I'm seeing more and more of that where the sports.
Education.
Yes. And it was like, we don't need to eat that. We have enough food. Just catch these critters and let them loose. Mm-hmm. Before they would be sharks and they would kill them. Now they struggle to unhook them and let them free. That's a consciousness that I think more of us need, right? And even as adults, we need to be reminded of that. So I hope when you're in Washington that you do serve as our local guy, right? Because that's what we are missing here, right? And right now, there's a election coming up
Tuesday.
Tuesday, that's the final day, and then there's the runoff in November. But it is most of the people just used to that one day. It's not one day anymore. It's over a period of a couple weeks.
Yes.
Right.
11 a.m. to 7 p.m. all this week.
Yes.
You can vote at any one of the polling locations in Miami-Dade.
And that is so wonderful when we see that, because 10 years ago, remember the lines? There would be lines, and they said, we got to take off, all right? And they're there all day, and it's exhausting. You have to be really committed. Now, you can just go do it at any one of those places. People can do early voting. Absentee ballot, right? So what are you going to be doing in these next month and a half, right?
Well, 6 days, if I'm honest. I've got to get through the primary.
All right. Yes. Okay. I understand that. So what is it that people, when they watch this, are going to know about you that they didn't know before?
Oh, well, that I have accomplishments in their community. And I haven't always been loud about it, because that's how I've gotten things passed in the minority. If I beat my chest and wear it on my sleeve, I might get knocked down the next time I try to pass something. But the fact that I've been there quietly passing amazing legislation for our community, creating resources for our community, and moving things on that we really care about: affordable housing, infrastructure, climate change. I've passed the strongest laws on that in the state. Then I'm going to be able to do the same when I go to Congress and bring back the resources for our community.
And one of the things that's faced us, and perhaps across the country, but in particular here, is our shortage of, I'll use the oxymoron, affordable housing. What are we going to do as a nation, and particularly here in Miami-Dade County, about providing more housing that people can afford, because we get so many new people that move in here? What can be done?
This is our number one crisis. And that's why in my campaign, as important as these issues are, you never hear me talk about Trump or January 6th. I talk about affordable housing. That's what's really affecting us right now. And it's very achievable for us to move the needle on this. It seems like this daunting, out on the horizon, but we've done it at the city of Miami without the federal government's help. We created a Miami Forever bond, has over $100 million for affordable housing. I've changed the zoning code in the city of Miami for inclusionary zoning. First city in the state to mandate affordability within new towers downtown. These are possible, but imagine what we could do if we had the federal government as a partner.
And I think people want to know what can be done in the next couple of years, all right? And that's one of the things that can certainly be implemented. We can show people, here's what we've done, here's what's in the works. We know here in South Miami, there's 6.6 acres of 60-year-old townhouses owned by the government that's being torn down. The people are being moved, and they'll have an opportunity to move back in. The related company is putting up some beautiful buildings there, all sorts of levels of rent levels. And when people have an opportunity to move in some beautiful buildings, they feel good about themselves, and they feel better. That life can be good, and I don't have to stay in a particular area. Let's talk about transportation. So we have all these new people that are moving in. We have this busway. I want to thank the federal government for their $100 million to go from down south. And I know that the county wants to be able to get more public transportation. But down here, I don't know how we can move people from taking their cars to public transportation. How do we change that mindset?
Sometimes you have to hit rock bottom. to where it gets so painful to ride in your car that you look for alternatives. There's a lot of people, you'll never get them out of their cars, and you're never going to eliminate traffic. But if you create the options for the people who want them, you'll be able to mitigate the issue and give people public transportation that they very much need.
So we see the gas prices are coming back down, and a lot of people are happy. I'm happy for it. While they were high, people started saying, well, if it goes another level higher, I might decide to use some other method of transportation. I don't know if it was public, but maybe some join in with somebody else, for a shared ride. Well, do you think that something like that might happen where people would say, I'm going to put my car aside and I'm just going to ride with somebody else?
It's just an economic decision. It's not out of frustration or anger. A lot of people don't have more than $100 a week to spend on their gasoline. And so they will seek public transportation or carpooling.
And we see the electric vehicles are continuing to be purchased. Miami-Dade County has their first public solid waste, public works truck, all electric, that's going to be announced the next couple of days. It will be charged up at the facility where all the garbage goes, and they burn it, and they create steam, creates electricity, and they're going to recharge this baby overnight. And it looks like that is the wave of the future, right? And that as soon as it gets to be affordable, whatever that means, more people will do that. But for sure, a lot of people want to make sure they have charging stations that are convenient.
One of the greatest offenders that could make a difference on our climate issue are the municipalities themselves. Our fleet vehicles are in the hundreds. And so when we pass a policy to shift to electric vehicle or hybrid, that makes a big difference. So the city of Miami, we set a climate goal of carbon neutral by 2050. And then we have a plan to get there on how we shift our behavior and then how we mandate what's done in the towers in Miami for efficiency.
And I think that's important for us, especially people over the age of 50, to say, here's what's going to happen in the next 5 years or 10 years. I got a call from somebody from the county. Hey, Michael, there's this new road that in 25 years is going to be in a neighborhood. I thought you'd like to know about it. Well, I appreciate you calling me. All right. 25 years from now, I want to know the next 5 years, right, what's going to happen. And so as I look to, I've been driving trucks my entire life. I'm almost moving. I'm moving. But then I go, but right now I can fuel up at that corner or that corner or that corner. But there's a whole generation that's not concerned about that. They know where to go. They know how to do it. My son lives in the city of Miami, one of the ones by the arena, and it's valet parking. And at night they charge it up, and the morning comes out and it's charged. That's just the way it is.
Yep.
Right. And my wife's getting ready. I can see her moving. She's, where are we going to put the charging thing? So we realize that lots of folks are ready to make that move, but need somebody to hold their hand. So how are you going to be able to hold our hands and get us to this place where we need to be as a community?
So municipalities need to work on their code for development to encourage the installation, so that everyone who buys an electric vehicle isn't now going to try to figure out how to wire their house.
Yes.
That new homes and new apartments should be coming with these options available. But at the federal level, it's really about continuing to move toward that industry and move away from fossil fuels and encourage the alternative sources. And I think it's happening.
And I heard up in Boston, some other areas, they're saying that no, we're not going to allow any new fossil fuel things. I think they're talking about gas stations, right? So you have to figure out some other way to do it. We have 38 seconds left. People can find you at kenrussellforflorida.com, right? Yes. You're all over the internet. You're all over Instagram. You're all over TikTok. People can find about you all over the place. They can go to Wikipedia. Everywhere they want, they can find you. So you got 20 seconds left. Tell us why. And you're going to look right into this camera right over here. Wilson, we on? There you go.
It's a pleasure to be here. I really thank you for the opportunity. The most important thing for everyone right now is to make their vote plan for August 23rd. This is a very important primary where you get to choose your champion who will take on the other side in November. So please, there's early voting all this week, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m., any polling location in the Miami-Dade County area. Then August 23rd, grab some friends, go out and vote, find 10 for Ken. I really appreciate your support. Thanks.
Ken Russell, thanks for being here. Again, this is Live with Miami's Community News. Thank you for joining us. Have a great day.